Okay, now that we know that all of these models hallucinate, what can we do about it? We tried out a few different things and we identified 4 areas that have a strong impact on the hallucination rate. The first one is thinking effort. How many thinking tokens does the model produce before answering? Data and metadata, system prompt, and structured out. The number of thinking tokens is actually wildly different. GPT 5.4 mini tops our thinking token leaderboard here. What does that mean? It means it's a lot more expensive and a lot slower. For your use case, you need to think about how much thinking budget can I afford, both in latency and cost, and then play with that to see how it changes behavior. Next point on the list is data and metadata. If you provide models with information, they need to know where that information is coming from. We include for every chunk that we retrieve, which product this chunk is referring to, so that the model can make that connection. Regarding the system prompt, we used a pretty detailed prompt where we talked about the answer style, and we also talked about the faithfulness and precision of the answer. So we told the model strict faithfulness means never explain technical terms or concepts when they're not explained in the documents, never add any information, and so on. That was really important. So in this example, we added a section here on mistakes to avoid to see if that improves the model responses. We basically told the model about all the behavior that we observed that we didn't want. We can report hallucination rate. For one of the prompt changes, it actually got worse, and the other change was on par. We could prove that the system prompt can have a strong impact, but we didn't manage to improve upon our already strong system prompt in this case. The last measure that we took is a bit of a creative interpretation of structured output. For some of the models, what we did was we told it to use structured outputs. And what we said is you provide the answer in 2 parts, facts, which only contain the facts, and then inferences, which can contain advice that follows from the identified fact. Our theory here was that especially Opus and Sonnet were so insisting on giving advice beyond what was said in the documents that we said, okay, models are going to be models. We can maybe just lead that energy elsewhere. You can see here for GPT, for example, how the hallucination rate in facts is actually just 20%. Or 21, and the same was visible in Sonnet. So you remember Sonnet had 60% hallucination rate. If we used the structured output, we got it down to 33%. Not great still, but a lot better. The main thing that we learned is definitely you need to experiment. You need to experiment to compare all the different properties, the different costs, the different hallucination rates to see what works for your use case. That's what we tried. Thinking effort, data and metadata, system prompt, structured outputs. They're definitely worth experimenting with.